Welcome one and all to another video. I bring to you another yap session, but today is a special video. This very video you're watching is part of March Caprice, a wonderful celebration week for the beloved Kingdom Hearts franchise. I'll be leaving more info in the description box below, but today I'm here to entertain you all on the most biggest, wondrous thoughts of what an artist has to think about when drawing hair. And not just any hair, but Kingdom Hearts hair. Now, you may be thinking, what in the gobbledygook does hair and Kingdom Hearts have in common? That's where I'm here to show you the new world of, well, art. First, I'm gonna wear the teacher's hat and explain a few things. So hair typically has no bones and therefore can be very free-willing and can be drawn in any way. The only thing that really controls it are gravity or air and, well, how you style the hair, I suppose. Hair, just like the rest of the body, does have a certain flow to it, so you can't just go full ham and draw it anyhow. And the last thing is that hair comes in layers and sections. Just like how we section our hair to wash it or put them in ponytails, so does the hair we draw. Dissecting hair into sections makes the hair more easy to understand and gives a nice feel of depth. Now with all that said, I want you to apply the guideline stuff to all the hairstyles you see in Kingdom Hearts. Now see, from the moment I started to draw fan art for Kingdom Hearts, I realized I've been fighting a tug of war with these characters. It's because of their hair. Man, I'm all here for character development, but why is the hair so out there? I get it, it does help the character with the design and everything, but man, give me some slack. Every time I want to draw them, I have to have like about 5 references of their head in different angles. Okay, now here you see a tier list of my grief and suffering. Many a nights I have stared at Ventus's hair and thought, what's wrong with my hands? What is that thing? Where does it grow from? And today, we're going to talk about that specifically, and with an audience to boot. So what's not to like? So what's going to happen is that I'll be going over the Organization 13 members' hair, all the trio's hair, and basically explain how to draw and how their hair should kind of sort of grow. And in the background, you'll be seeing me draw their hair in a chibi-fied form. Yeah, so we're burning daylight. Let's go. Now we begin with Xemnas. Okay, so out of the whole Xehanort squad, if I had to draw one of them, I would honestly have to draw the old Xehanort because he's bald and he has no hair. Okay, so back to Xemnas. Problem is, why is his hair like that? It's like he wanted a half up and half down and couldn't decide, and he just said, I'll just spike it up and call it a day. That's wrong, and that's mean. Now, let's begin dissecting. Questions to think of. How long are the spikes on top of his head? We know that his hair is longer, but at which point does it start to smoothen down from the spikes to like just straight hair? There's a lot of singular spikes as well around the face area. At the very least, his hair is somewhat slicked back too. And with his hair, you kind of have like 2 main spots here. The top part where like you have the short spikes and then the long mane towards the back. Only thing is that the long part of the hair has a few going up on his shoulders too, and then those singular spikes across his face are the framing bangs, and luckily these are a lot more specific around the face. So when you combine all those two together, drawing his hair shouldn't be too difficult, but it takes practice, especially with his hair. Now Xigbar. Okay, so honestly, bless this dude. Actually, wait, I take that back. With what happened at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 and him just being covered in lore, I don't know if I should be saying all that, but like, dude, his hair, oh my gosh, it's a simple pony with just some small color variants, and I love it so much. Best part is that it doesn't even move much. Plus, it's very slick together. Although, not gonna lie, I do have some issues with hairlines, so it would be a little bit awkward trying to get it correctly, but we were learning here. From the looks of things, he does also have a tiny widow's peak, but the rest is usually just like a square hairline, which I think most of the male characters in this game have. Overall, good hair. Lovely. Simple. Everyone be like Xigbar. Not like the lore, but the hair. Everyone be like Xigbar. Okay, now comes in Xaldin. So my sir is like, it's like half into Xigbar area, but then half not. He has the ponytail like Xigbar, but the ponytail part is wrapped in a bun-ish type of style before it cascades into a nice flowing locks. Now see, his hairstyle is a bit tricky because you have to take into account his hairline, the sideburns, and then also how locks are styled into that ponytail. He doesn't have any bangs except for a few spikes, which I don't know how that works, but apparently it works. It's not really so hard, but you'd have to take into account how the ponytail is styled basically at the end of the day. I kind of like drawing dreads once in a while, so this would be an interesting challenge, but his sideburns would scare me so bad. It's like little cat whiskers. Yeah. Next up is the maddening scientist Vexen. So his hair is a bit tricky. The back is also kind of easy. Let me explain. So it's a simple, hair down type of thing, but then the front is kind of tricky because of the fact of how the bangs are. Because of the video, I was looking around, I was like, where do his bangs come from? Because usually bangs come from your hairline. But then when you look at it, them two little bangs, they come from like the center part of his head. Honestly, you really wouldn't notice till you looked at how the middle parting of the top of his head looks. It's actually kind of interesting. It kind of suits him though. Hojo. Hojo also has bangs. In comes the Earth champion, like Zeus. Okay, so his hair would give me so much stress if I were to draw this dude. It's a mix of studying his hairline and hoping for the best, especially for the ends of his hair. Funny enough, it reminds me a lot of the Shadow Heartless, like the little antenna that they have, After looking at his hair, it's like curly slick back, but with the ends of the hair just sticking out free. If anything, the difficult part would be figuring out the head shape. Like Zeus has a strong profile feature in general. Like I can't find much baby fat. And then also his features just scream, big boy adult. And then also the ends of his hair is another issue. I mean, it's curly-ish, but it's also kind of spiky. I was fighting it, as you can see. At that point, that's where I'd be struggling, and then I would turn on the quote-unquote hope for the best and wing it switch. And now in comes the moody but studious Zexion. He's adorably short like Roxas, and what would you know, he has the same hair issues as Roxas. Guys, the one thing about being an artist is that there's no way we can draw every spike. That's insane and that's crazy. What we actually do is draw as much spikes as we need to send the message that, hey, I'm drawing, insert character name here, home. So, with Zexion, we gotta pick out the spikes that make him recognizable. We know he has a regular short spiky downward hair at the back, but the front hair is a lot more longer than the back. It comes out in waves of spikes, kind of like a ficus plant. Now the trick all depends on how you draw him. Some spikes, like the ones at the top of his head, would be drawn out more if you were to draw him from like a top-down view. If it were from a front view, then you would be focusing on those long bangs and adding a few more spikes to the side to add volume. Honestly, I kind of wish I could give more concrete tips, but honestly, he's a hidden character that even I'm scared to draw. Now comes in the werewolf Sayax, whatever. Anyway, as much as I love his cool self, his hair, sadly, is almost about the same as Xemnas. But not gonna lie, I think it's a bit more easier to figure out and draw though. Only difficulties that I see here are his hairline, the tufts of fluffy spikes in the front. The back of his hair isn't so bad either, honestly. And yeah, I think that's about it actually. We have fluffy spikes that kind of sit at the top of his head, and then from the middle down we have straight hair going downwards. The funny thing about his hair is that the straight hair isn't really straight. It gives off more of a piñata hair, but with fluff, Looking at his rendered version from like Kingdom Hearts 3, his hair just gives off the feel of more layers. I mean, if I had to draw him, I don't think it'd be too hard, but it would still be a bit of a challenge because of the top of his head and his hairline. All you'd have to do is add small soft spikes on his head and then transition it over to like a more straighter fluffy-ish type of hair in the back. In comes the amazing, the fire breather. Well, yeah, I mean, he's not really a fire breather, more like a fire bender. But Axel. Now this man, whack. He goes right up there with Xemnas in the hair category. To conquer his hair, you honestly have to break it down like I did with Zexion. At the start, we talked about the hair placement and sectioning, right? So technically, on any character that has a head, you can find the middle, bottom, and front part of the head, and by connection, the hair, if that makes sense. Now, if you look at Axel's hair, right, his spikes are in almost all directions. A quick glance will show you that all his spikes are basically gravity defying and go outward. But the one thing not to forget is that there's a lot of hair on that head, okay? Imagine you gotta draw that. You get to the head and you realize, hey yo, where and how does his hair begin? And now this, my friends, is where I show you my wisdom. I like to use the idea that everyone or everything kind of has a pattern. Only if you look carefully into it, my friends. So when you dissect things like this you'll be able to see how certain things may flow and understand it. So for Axel, for all that spikiness that he's got, his hair does have a little bit of meaning to it. The boy has two major spiky areas. These are the spikes near the base of his neck, and then the second part is the top to the middle part of his head. And I mean, he also has a few like flyaway spikes at the top of his head too, as well as little spikes at the sides of his face, like, you know, for framing purposes. The spikes that are at the base of his neck are longer and are aimed towards the bottom. And then the middle part of his hair is like a merging point for both the top spikes and then the bottom spikes, the one that are near his base of his neck. And then the top part is just, it's spiked up, baby. That thing is shooting to the moon. If you know where the spikes are growing and how they're growing, you can kind of finesse it and get the result that you want. Alright, next up is our waterbender, Demix! My little happy boy. Demix is a sweetie. So, my boy, he rocks a mullet, and honestly, it's adorable. If you look up how to draw a mullet, I feel like honestly you're basically set. But the only changes you'd have to make is adding a little bit of hair strands that kind of peek over his face from like the hairline, and then also making the ends of his hair. The ends of his hair are kind of like a parrot or a bird or a cockatoo. The trick to drawing that part is that you just gotta make his hair not so full at the end, but more sparse and a little bit more softish. Next we have our casino attendant, Luxord. Now, Luxord is another anatomy flag. His hair is close to his head, therefore the possibility of having an egghead is quite high, my friends. So his hair is simple but kind of tricky, I think. It's pretty flat, so you don't have to worry too much about spikes. And the way his hair is kind of reminds me of how you can have like short hair, but then you brush it towards the front of your face. So that means the ends and the spikes are like towards your hairline and the front of your face. That's because his model in Kingdom Hearts 3 and 2 kind of show which way his hair ends are facing. All parts of his hair just look to be brushed, you know, upward towards his face, which in turn, like I said, gives him an interesting hairline. The thing I'd watch out for when drawing his hair is that, like I said, you don't need to draw every single, like, you know, spike or brushed up portion of his hair, but just enough here and there to show how his hair sits on his head. So then you would just basically, like, you know, do a couple spikes towards his hairline, just to show that it's not your regular like brush down type short hair, but it's a brush up. Next up we have our petal throwing flower enthusiast, Marluxia. Yo, not gonna lie, this man, he's right up there with Xemnas and Axel. I know that this man is a walking flower. Have you seen the stem of the scythe that he carries? Just like in math, formulas can be used in almost any mathematical equation. Just like how we dissected the case of Axel, so shall we do here with the case of Marluxia. One thing that will help tremendously are the models from Kingdom Hearts 3, because those models in particular are a lot more defined in both the hair, the outfit, the colors, basically everything. So you can kind of see how things would look like for each character. So from the looks of things, Guy just basically has fluffy, spiky hair to the max, with two heavily layered spikes framing his face as well as the bangs. The rest of his hair contains fluffy spikes that curl towards the bottom, giving it a nice little flare motion. Another thing to also remember is that these are kind of like feathered spikes. It quite frankly looks like someone just went ham at the ends of his hair and then just gave him random spikes. The top part of his hair also has a small parting too. What I would say is, remember the tip that I gave with XIII? You don't have to draw every single spike, but just enough to give you the idea of how his hair should technically be like. For example, to start, you would want to focus on the spikes near the face and then start to work your way backward, because it, like I said, it depends on how you're drawing him. If you're drawing him from the front view, you would want to start with the spikes that really frame his face, and then you would start to work your way backwards, adding spikes here and there as you go, because you don't want to add too much or else it's gonna feel just too much hair. You would just add as you go. looking at your reference, thinking, okay, his hair probably look like this, look like that, and then that's how you just progress. And now for the finale of the Organization 13, we have the lightning nymph, Darcy. I love her. Oh my gosh, I love her so much. Her sassiness is amazing. Okay, back to the hair. Now luckily she kind of has the same-ish hairstyle with Luxord, with that basically meaning the hair flat to the head, basically. So the main balance is just trying to figure out how flat to make her head, and then also comparing that to how much hair you want to give her on top of her head, because it's slick back hair. I mean, you're basically drawing the head at that point, like the whole head, circle head, but then you don't want to make it so flat that the hair does not look to be existing on the head. So it was just a whole balance at that point. Once again, I'd probably focus, like I said, more on head structure, and then add the hair as like a medium layer and then thicken it as I go down. Especially because by the base of her neck, her hair is just like, you know, sticking out, kind of like a little birdie. Or actually no, kind of like Trinity from the Matrix. Yeah. Now, it's also not just the head structure you need to focus on. There's also the hairline. You know, you gotta be careful or you might just accidentally give her a 5-finger forehead. Other than that, it's not really so hard. And then you also have like 2 little antennae. It's like a little ribbon on her head. It's kind of cute, man. Alright, now that we have finished the Organization 13 crew members, we will now shift into the trio. The key bearers of light. The master keybladers. Let's begin with the Destiny Trio. Let's begin with Sora, my sweet child, my little baby who taught me the power of friendship. Literally, honestly, as cringy as it may sound. Alright, so I can narrow down that he has about 3 models throughout the series. One in Kingdom Hearts 1, I mean, you know, another one in Kingdom Hearts 2, and another one in Kingdom Hearts 3. This makes it easier to draw him because you can technically just, you know, pick the hair you want to draw, and then you just draw that version of Sora. So with Kingdom Hearts 1, funny thing is that Sora definitely has the spiky hair. I'm saying cloud stripe spiky. Reason why at first I had a hard time drawing him was because the spikes, I mean, look at them things, man. They can make anybody scared to draw that. But once again, we shall try to break it down formula style, you know what I'm saying? After looking around his head, well, the boy's head is built like a star, man. Like, have you seen the smile on that boy? It's kind of obvious. Anyway, he tends to have 3 sections of spikes. There's one that sits on top of his head, and a section that pokes to the left and to the right. I mean, there's also a few face framing spikes that kind of act also as bangs too. Interestingly enough, the back of his head isn't really as spiked, honestly. It's just like a small set of mini spikes that are kind of soft, and then they're just like outwards. They're not really anywhere, they just poke outwards. So a few tips that I can say are that the center of his hair grows not really straightly up, but rather has like a slight lean to the left of it. So like that big spike at top of his head, it doesn't go straight up. It goes like up and to the left. This helps with how and where to start drawing the spikes, because you can kind of see how his hair grows, and then from there you can draw the spikes accordingly. If you know how certain hair grows, you can add locks of hair without it looking awkward, because you're following how the hair naturally grows, so it shouldn't really look awkward. Another tip is that looking at his hair, it looks like the left side of his hair has a bit more spikes comparing to the right side of his head. So with that, you can kind of just like, you know, add a little bit more, make it look a little bit more busy in that part of his hair than the other side. Other than that, Godspeed. Dude, spikes, you'd think they would be easier to draw. You're basically just drawing triangles without the bottom half. And a lot more people wing it, like I do. Next, we have Kingdom Hearts 2 version of Sora. Basically, I think at this time, Sora realized that his hair was too long as a kid and had a shortcut. The one thing I like about this version of Sora is that comparing it to the Kingdom Hearts 1 version, you can see the evolution of Sora's hair. And the best part is that it looks like it's an actual person that's growing along with their hair. Because if you draw Kingdom Hearts 2 Sora's hair, and then you also draw Kingdom Hearts 1 Sora's hair, it's kind of similar. Only thing is that with Kingdom Hearts 2, Sora's hair is a lot more shorter. At the end of the day, in Kingdom Hearts 2, he still has the compass hair, but it's a lot more tamer-ish. If anything, I'd say that there is a bit more defined spikes around the face, you know, especially along the bangs area. So instead of having some spikes be bigger, you can just, you know, separate them and have them be more defined and more singularly spiky, I guess you could say. And now I bring in Kingdom Hearts 3 Sora. The evolution of Sora's hair is logical and is pretty simple to understand. The growth of spikes are also about the same too. The spikes that are framing his face to how the spikes are falling on the sides of his face. Especially those three little spikes on his forehead, it has never changed. It's the signature that all the 3 different Soras have. The only thing that makes this all different is that in Kingdom Hearts 3, he no longer has that tall spike on his head. And it looks like the spikes he has in general have all kind of shrunken down. His hairstyle in this version still has that fluffy spikes around, you know, the top of his head and especially the little back point of his head. And then you also have firm and skinnier spikes towards the front of his face. And now we begin. Let's introduce the one, the only Riku. My boy, my little pseudo Sasuke boy. Man, in Kingdom Hearts 1, that boy was dramatic. I mean, rightfully so, I don't blame him. But his hair was easy to draw. Let me tell you, I loved his hair. The boy does have his fair share of spikes, but it's actually towards the ends of his hair. So technically, you don't have to deal with that much of gravity in the situation. In his case, there isn't really a specific kind of shape or spike that tells you that, you know, hey, I'm Riku. It's literally the hairstyle only that will tell you that, hey, I'm Riku. Because thing is, in my book, every character has a silhouette of how their hair should look like. And that silhouette or shape helps bring the idea of who you're drawing. Now see, Riku doesn't have any of that. I mean, he just has spikes at the bottom of his hair. And also a few layered spikes along the sides of his face. Now what I can say is that they're positioned in a flared out type of way. Oh, and I guess this also applies to Repliku as well. Alright, the next Riku is, well, I guess you could say Organization 13 Riku and Kingdom Hearts 2 Riku. Once again, evolutionary hair places another star on the board, just like it did with Sora. There are many similarities between Kingdom Hearts 1 Riku and Kingdom Hearts 2 Riku. If anything, I do think that Kingdom Hearts 2 Riku, his hair, you know, is more grown out. A lot more hair, that's for sure. The spiky bangs fall more on his face, especially towards his eyes, giving it like a nice little curtain, you know. The side hair and bangs frame his face a lot more than it did in Kingdom Hearts 1. So that means that the side of his hair has a little bit of layering and then also cradles his face. The back of his hair is about the same as well. It's just more longer and more flared out, and it's just also heavily layered with spikes. With layering, there's many ways to go about it. You can separate the top from the bottom so that the hair isn't so uniform and gives a feel of depth. In conclusion, Kingdom Hearts 1 Riku, shorter, not that much spikes. Kingdom Hearts 2 Riku has many layering, therefore more spikes. Alright, now Kingdom Hearts 3 Riku was the knight in shining armor that Kingdom Hearts 2 Riku wanted to be. I don't think there's that much of a big difference between Dream Drop Distance Riku and Kingdom Hearts 3 Riku. Only thing I can see that's kind of different is that it's honestly just a lot more feathered. The regular spikes that you'd see in Kingdom Hearts 2 for his hair, I mean, it's still there. Some recognizable spikes that Kingdom Hearts 3 Riku has would be like, you know, the spikes framing his face and also his little flare situation in the back too. The main focus in this version is honestly just the feathered spike style. So in other words, his hair is like Kingdom Hearts 2, but there's just more spikes here and can be created by making those spikes in layers. Now in comes Kairi, the princess of princesses, ladies and gents, with the most simple hair, if I may add. Okay, so with Kingdom Hearts 1 Kairi, pretty simple. Just basically think up a regular straight hair, but it's cut up to the base of her head and then feathered upwards. I mean, the best example I could say with this is like, imagine 9S from Nier Automata. That's kind of how her hair is, although it's a little bit shorter in the front than it is with 9S. And from the front, she has a little left side parting and a few spikes forming her bangs, and then from that parting, it kind of just covers her eyes just a little bit. Her hair falls from that part in the front, which helps frame her face on either sides. The back of her hair, like I mentioned before, is shorter, but looks to have, a little bit of layers in it. In general, her hair is pretty simple. Kingdom Hearts 2 version of Kairi said, I want to be cool like Riku, I want to fight for my friends too. I could do it. Now, let's take a look. The main difference here is the parting. While in Kingdom Hearts 1, she had hers on the left, this Kairi has hers on the right. The best thing here is, hair evolution once again. The front part of her hair is basically like the longer version of Kingdom Hearts 1 version. The parting still makes bangs across her eyes, and the spikes that frame her face still falls in a similar way. Now, the only changes are just how long her hair is along with how the ends of her hair is like. The length now extends to about her shoulder blades or so. As for her ends, they're more on the feathered side, meaning there isn't really a specific way how the ends of her hair should be. So you can kind of just finesse that part. I think it'd be okay. And now comes the piece de resistance. Kingdom Hearts 3 Kairi gave us a nice bob, but one that suits her adorably. So this hairdo is about an inch or so longer than Kingdom Hearts 1 Kairi's hair, but shorter than Kingdom Hearts 2's Kairi's hair. This version of Kairi doesn't have a parting for once. Now she just has a few set of fluffy bangs in the front, and then she has a few curved hair that frames her face. And then comes the main basis of her hair, which is the bob. It's so fluffy. It starts on each side of her face and is, curved in like a bob. Yeah, it kind of keeps its shape, but it's also very fluffy and loose looking. Now, drawing bobs like this one isn't so hard, especially since the spikes are quite literally in the shape of a bob. To make it look more fluffy, you might want to use the method of layering to get the look of voluminous and plump. It's just a regular bob that's a little bit more on the loose side. And now we introduce the Twilight Trio. So, Roxas, my boy. The only thing good about this boy is that his hair stays the same throughout all the games, and that's it. Only thing you gotta worry about is that thing that's sitting on top of his head. I love the boy. He said, I'ma sacrifice anything to get my friends back. His hair is stressful. The back of his head is actually pretty flat, and the lower half of it kind of spikes downward, The spikes also frame his face, but is more on the shorter side. And Guy has 3 mini spikes on his forehead as bangs, like Sora. Go figure. And now, after all that, you gotta tackle that thing on his head. To be quite honest with you, this is like another XIII moment. My approach to this would be to work around the spiked up area and then finesse the troublesome top part of his head. By that, I mean I try to get the overall shape of the bottom spikes that are about at the base of his neck, and then start to do the spiked framing around his face. From there, this is where his signature spikes come in, which is the little swirl spikes he has. See, as long as the spikes look somewhat similar to what Roxas looks like from a reference sheet, you're set. I'd start to do curved spikes that start with the big spikes at the top of his head, and then slowly go along the left side of his head, making the curved spikes smaller as I go. The worst part is that his hair looks like it's feathered, and that therefore makes his hair look really complicated. As long as the audience understands what you're drawing, to be honest, it's okay. Wing it till you make it. Next up is Shion, my sweet child. I cried for her, one for the unfortunate, quote unquote passing, and one for her heart-wrenching return. I put her right up there with Kingdom Hearts 2 Kairi. It's a regular short style with a somewhat parting on the right. The goal here is layers. Her hair may look simple, but looking closely, there is a couple layers in there that add a little bit of plump to it, you know what I'm saying? So then on her face, she has about 3 distinct spikes on her forehead, like Sora. but they're more brushed to the left side of her face, making a little swoop. She also has a few spikes framing her face as well, which leads to her beautiful simple hair. The key to making layers is to remember how full you want to make the hair. To make things in simpler terms, you could just have 2 layers and then just, mix things around, make it look fuller, add some random hair here and there, bada bing bam pow. Next up on the chopping block is the elegant, the shy, the quiet Naminé. Our sweet snow fairy Naminé. I call her a snow fairy. She's adorable. I love her. Anywho, so her hairstyle is about 50-50 in difficulty, I would say. In general, her hair is about like the length of, I'd say, Kingdom Hearts 2 Kairi, but it's a bit more remixed and has a lot more layers. We don't really see those layers in Kingdom Hearts 2, but we do see them a lot in Kingdom Hearts 3. So now with her hair, she has most of it in the back and like a big chunk over her right shoulder to the front. Kind of like with what Xemnas does. That one chunk that's over her shoulder is feathered to have about like, I'd say 3-ish spikes to it, which are slightly curled at the end. On the sides of her face are fluffy spikes that curl towards her face, with one on the right side of her head curled outward like like those little anime ahoge. Other than that, her bangs are pretty long, with a few curled bangs on her forehead hitting her eyes almost. Yeah, after that it's just like a regular straight hair down type thing. Now, would I say her hair is hard? No. But it's just that her hair isn't really in the realm of spikes. It's kind of all about, soft spikes and long curls. Her hair doesn't have much spikes, to be honest. Her hair just has like a lot of curls at the end. And now we begin looking at the oldies, bro. Ventus, my sweet, oh god, my sweet boy, is a menace in disguise. Like, dang, both him and Roxas give me stress when I have to draw them. I'm taking this time to save my grievances. They both have dang near the same hairstyle. I know lore-wise there's a reason why they have the same hair, but come on, you don't need your hair to be flaring up like that. And you know what's worse? I'm looking at them side by side right now, and either I'm tweaking out or Ventus has like 5% more flared up hair. This is illegal. This is stupid. If you want to know how I draw Ventus's hair, look at Roxas. He's a whole blueprint to drawing Ventus's hair. I refuse. Alright, my boy Terra, and also my little cockatoo birdie. So, as you can see, this boy has a parrot for hair. Anyways, dissecting time, kiddos. For one, he has no bangs-ish. He has them, it's just not in the front of his face. And those bangs are kind of more on the bigger side because they not only act as side bangs, but they also help frame his face. Now, here's something a bit interesting. From the middle of his hairline all the way to the back is like another version of Xemnas' hairstyle. If I were to compare Terra and Xemnas' hairstyle together, I would say Terra's is a bit more manageable, I think. Xemnas' hair is a lot more longer, therefore you gotta take more things into account, like how much spikes to put or how much hair you gotta draw. In Terra's corner, he does also have long hair, but it's not as bad really. He has the signifying cockatoo hair sticking up right at the top of his head. But behind that, his hair just, spikes its way downward, honestly. His hair is giving mohawk or a mullet type style, but not all the way. Now we bring in the true prince of the story. You know who she is? Aqua. Aqua, I can say, has nice and simple-ish hair. So with her hair, she has a parting just like the other girls. It's more on the left side, but a bit more closer to the middle, which creates a nice swoop in bangs that falls on the right side of her face. Her face is framed by spikes as well, and seems to be cradling her face a bit too. Aqua also has a bit of layering spikes as well. With that, I'd also say she does have 2 major layers to her hair. One part that's like at the top of her hair, and then one part that's towards the bottom half of her hair. So the top part of her hair looks a little bit like Shion's short hairstyle with the length and cut and everything. It's like a regular hair down style that's kind of spiked at the ends, and then the second part is more like a hair tail. This part of the hair starts to come from the middle section of her hair and then comes down to her nape and is like curled like a cute little bird tail. Now her style isn't so hard because you can kind of section out her hair and then add in any extra spikes that you may need. And you know what that means now that I finished with Aqua? we're finished. My golly. I did it. I'm proud of myself. It was kind of fun though, actually, you know, like breaking down the hair and trying to make sense of what those things on top of their heads are. Spiky hair is the trait of the great Nomura, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But yeah, I do want to say a big thank you to the folks over at March Caprice for the opportunity. I've been meaning to rant about this, and now I can. Love you guys. You know, feel free to like and subscribe for more interesting videos. Farewell. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, morning, evening, midday, all that shenanigans. And I shall see you all the next time I can. May your heart forever be your guiding key. Ah, I feel great. Okay, bye.